In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I bear witness there is no God but God, and God is the only one who has the right to be worshipped. I also bear witness that Prophet Moses, Prophet Jesus, and Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon them, are the messengers of God, and I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected Satan. So greetings of peace, and thanks for tuning in. May the peace and blessings of Allah be with you. So in these videos, we prepare for the coming of Imam Mahdi as well as the second coming of Jesus. Peace and blessings be upon them, also known as the Mashiachs. So we've got lots to talk about in this video. We're going to be looking at the law of travel and the law of immigration. Now, obviously, there's been lots of restrictions that's been going on with travel. We're also going to be looking at immigration as in regards to what's going on in Afghanistan with the Taliban, to help them to spread the guidance of Allah to them, inshallah. So, as with travel, as you may know, what's been going on with the 19 thing, they want to put stuff in people's arms so that they can travel. Now, this is what you call medical fascism, and to break that down, is fascism is when big corporation, big business is in bed with the government, and the government imposes their legislations, their policies to make monopolies and control the people for the profits of the big business and corporations and like big pharma or whatever. So they've done this with insurances. They force you to have car insurance, things like that. The government is quite fascist in the world we live today, and we can see that around the world. They're trying to impose these passports that they have to have, had to have something put in your body so that you're allowed to travel around the world. And we're going to be taking a look at some of these laws and commandments, and also taking a look how immigration, of laws and commandments of immigration as well, in regards to Afghanistan and what's going on there as well. So, Organization of Divine Laws and Commandments of the Most High, the Quran edition. This book should be ready within a few weeks, I would imagine. Maybe 2 more weeks, maybe a little bit more. About halfway done editing, so I'll probably need another 2 or 3 weeks possibly. So we're going to go to the table of contents here. So we're going to be looking at the law of immigration and also the law of travel here. So we'll go to the law of travel first. We'll go to page 321. So, law of travel. Now, we're not going to read all of these. Some that to do with traveling while prayer and entering residential homes, but we just want to take a look at the main ones here. So, in regards to, Allah's commandments about travel, this is what Allah says here in the Quran. Traverse the spacious paths for your spiritual and material advancement. So Allah says in chapter 67, verse 15, He it is who has made the earth smooth and subservient to you for your benefit, so traverse far and deep into its spacious paths for your spiritual and material advancement, and thus by active labor eat of His sustenance and enjoy His gifts. To Him will you all return after you have been raised to life. So Allah says in chapter 71, 19 through 20, Allah has made the earth a vast expanse for you, that you may traverse its spacious paths for the development of civilization and also attain spiritual perfection. So we're actually commanded by Allah to traverse the world for many different reasons: spiritual reasons, material reasons, for the development of civilization, for growth, for expansiveness. So for human beings to be more prosperous, to be more happy, more content in their material and spiritual advancement, it's very important for them to traverse the world, to explore, to go to new places, meet new people, do business from long distances. This is all very important for the souls, the soul, the spirit of the human being to grow, to expand. So all these restrictions that you can't go someplace without a certain paper saying that you got something put into your body, this is completely a monopoly that the fascist governments are in bed with the big business, the big corporations like Big Pharma, and they just want to soak up all the tax dollars. They want to enforce monopolies, like you can't travel without having something put into you. Now, I can see there being some restrictions if there's a big outbreak somewhere and the sick people are quarantined, but you don't quarantine the healthy people. You don't restrict people's travel if there's no sort of big pandemic going on. So there's no justifications for doing this. Like I said, it's just for the big business, the big corporations to make more money, and it is a law and commandment of Allah for human beings to travel without restrictions. Obviously you can't trespass on, there's conditions for entering residential and non-residential homes. Obviously you can't, trespass on people's private properties, but in the common areas, we should be free to travel, and this is for the development of civilization as well as the material and spiritual development of human beings. So it's a big sin that what's going on now with the governments around the world trying to push all this passport stuff that you need to have some sort of something in your arm so you can travel, some papers to show that you got it or whatever, which there's no justification for it. There's no proof that they even work, and there's been lots of cases where people have become sick and even died from taking them. So I took when I was 11 years old, 10 or 11 years old, when I was in school here, they came in and started injecting all the kids with a vaccine, or I don't know what it was exactly. And I still have pain in my arm from that time when I was 11 years old. So I've still been physically damaged by these vaccines. I don't trust them. I haven't seen a doctor in roughly 25 years or so, since I was a kid. Basically since I was a kid or so, or maybe even longer, maybe 30 years. I'm not exactly sure how long it's been. That I don't go see doctors. I put my trust in Allah, the unique creator of all that exists. It's really nice to see that Afghanistan, I don't remember seeing anybody wearing masks over there. From what I've heard, that they don't have anything to do with these things they put in people's arms, which I highly commend the Taliban for not buying into this nonsense, into this monopoly that this medical fascism that is going on. This is rampant within the governments, that they're trying to push all these different monopolies on people. It's just, and they use violence to enforce it by giving fines, by arresting, by seizing property, by all sorts of different types of violence that they'll use to enforce these types of monopolies. So, in the time of Imam Mahdi, as well as the second coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, there's not going to be all these provinces and states. It's going to be an ummah. From what I've gathered from the hadiths, it's going to be as far the expanse of the Middle East. I think parts of northern Africa, Turkey, Iran, parts of Asia, even into the Vatican. So in the time of Imam Mahdi, there's going to be a huge, area of his rulership, and there's not going to be passports to get from one place to another. There's going to be the free flow of people. Obviously, the borders will be protected by the military, and there will be I'm sure there's some sort of, defense against intruders from coming in on the borders. But for the people in general, they're going to have access to all the common areas and be free traveling, and this will help increase prosperity, abundance, increase material wealth, spiritual growth, and expand the Islamic civilization even further by implementing these divine laws by Allah, creator of all that exists, and eliminating forms of usury, forms of abolishing interest, monopolies, all these types of corrupt things that the fascist governments of the world are trying to impose on the people today. So, law of immigration. So we know there's a lot of people immigrating outside, trying to leave Afghanistan. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people, if Taliban are really sincere in bringing in God's laws, Allah's Sharia, a lot of people, I believe, will immigrate to them. So the more the Taliban can implement these divine laws of Allah without going into extremes, will be very beneficial for them. It will increase their prosperity, materially and spiritually. So, and if the Taliban are sincere in establishing God's laws on the earth, then they have my support. I'd like to help them in any way I can, inshallah. So as part of this video is to help, send the message to the people of Afghanistan and the people of the Taliban in the laws of immigration. Now, as I said before, it doesn't matter if they hear me or not. Allah hears me, and that's what counts. So those who emigrate in the cause of Allah rightly hope for Allah's mercy. So Allah says in chapter 2, verse 218, "Verily, as those who believe and those who emigrated and struggled hard in the cause of Allah, it is they who do rightly hope for Allah's mercy, and Allah is great protector, ever merciful." Emigrate away from disbelievers if you are able to express your faith. So Allah says in chapter 4, 97 through 99, "Surely the angels will ask those whom they caused to die while they were acting unjustly towards themselves, by prolonging their stay in the land of the disbelievers and thus transgressing against their own souls. What circumstances were you in that you did not allow Islam openly? They will reply, we were treated as weak in the country to express our belief. They, the angels, will say, was not Allah's earth spacious enough for you to have emigrated therein? It is these whose abode shall be hellfire, and an evil destination it is. Different, however, is the case of those actually weak men, women, and children, who can find no device nor means to emigrate. As to these, Allah may pardon for them for their helplessness, for Allah is the eraser of sins, most forgiving." So there's a lot to unpack here. Like I mentioned, if the Taliban are sincere in establishing God's laws, Allah's Sharia on the earth, Allah's laws and commandments, then more people will flock to them, because if there was a real place that really establishes God's laws, and there's I've been making preparations to travel there, to emigrate there. But at this point in time, there really isn't. So So I'm still in the preparation phase in that regards. You know, one of the things that I can think that came to mind when I read this was, you know, they want to put all this restriction on people of travel so they don't establish, you know, a place on earth where God's laws are being enforced and established to restrict people, to try to control them and herd them or whatever, you know. So, you know, it's our duty, if as true believers, to establish God's laws on this earth and immigrate to places like that. And we know in the time of Imam Mahdi that people from all around the world will come in droves to the Muslim lands while Imam Mahdi is ruling. You know, there's hadiths that talk about when some battles occur, they want to fight all those people that left their country, that left their military, and emigrated in the cause of Allah and strove for Allah, and join the family of the believers. So all this nonsense with the traveling restrictions may be preemptive by the Dajjalic system to for them to sort of counter that. Whoso emigrates in the cause of Allah will find in the earth an abundant place of refuge. So in chapter 4, verse 100, and whoso emigrates in the cause of Allah will find in earth an abundant place of refuge and plenty of resources. And whoso sets forth from his home, emigrating in the cause of Allah and his messenger, and death overtakes him, he shall have his reward with Allah for sure. Allah is great protector, ever merciful. So Allah, you know, if you're sincere in the cause of Allah and want to emigrate for His cause, you know, Allah says the earth is an abundant place of refuge, and you'll find plenty of resources and support for doing so. Not responsible for the protection of believers who have not emigrated until they do emigrate. So I'm not going to get into this one. The title is pretty clear. Those who have believed and emigrated and strove hard for the cause of Allah, and those who help them indeed are true believers. So Allah says in chapter 8, verses 74 through 75, and those who have believed and emigrated and strove hard for the cause of Allah, and those who have given them refuge and have helped, it is these indeed who are the believers. For them is His protection against sins and an honorable provision for Him. And even those who have believed afterwards and emigrated and strove hard jointly with you for the cause of Allah, they of course belong to you. And as to blood relations, they are near to one another and to inheritance according to the law of Allah. Surely Allah is perfect. Allah has perfect knowledge of everything. So those who support the immigrants coming in, you know what I mean, those are the true believers, as Allah is saying. Highest ranked are those who believe and emigrate and strive hard in the cause of Allah. Those who believe and emigrate for the sake of Allah and strive hard for the cause of Allah with their possessions and their persons have the highest rank with Allah, and it is these who are the very triumphant. So, you know, in the time of Imam Mahdi, like I mentioned before, there's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of people emigrating to the Muslim lands, and you know, these are going to be one of the highest ranks that you can get. Is, you know, Allah says those who believe and emigrate for the sake of Allah and strive hard for His cause with His possessions and persons have the highest rank with Allah, and they're going to be triumphant. And we know the armies of Imam Mahdi, they're going to be triumphant. So my screen here, my video here froze here, but I'll just continue. Allah will certainly provide a goodly abode in this world for those who emigrate in the cause of Allah after they were dealt with unjustly. We will certainly provide a goodly abode in this world for those who emigrated from their homes in the cause of Allah after they were dealt with unjustly, and surely the reward that they shall have in the hereafter is greater still. If the disbelievers but knew, it would have been much better for them. These are those immigrants who patiently persevered and put their trust in their Lord alone. Okay? Protection and mercy from Allah to those who emigrate after they have been persecuted and strove hard in the cause of Allah and patiently persevered. So Allah says in chapter 16, verse 110. Again, those who emigrated from their homes after they had been persecuted and strove hard in the cause of Allah and patiently persevered will ultimately find that your Lord, yes, your own Lord, is indeed great protector, ever merciful. So, a lot of us believers here have been persecuted and just waiting, patiently, preparing patiently for the time to immigrate and strive in the cause of Allah when the time is right, inshallah. Say in prayer while immigrating. Allah says in chapter 17, verse 80, and say in prayer, my Lord, grant me when I enter, wherever you take me to while migrating, I enter with truth in every way, and when I depart with truth, and grant me, by your grace, authoritative help which should sustain me in my activities. So the earth is vast and spacious if you are persecuted for your faith. So Allah says in chapter 39, verse 10, say, O my servants who believe, take your Lord as a shield. There is a good reward for those who do good in the life of this world. And if you are persecuted for your faith, know that the earth of Allah is vast and spacious enough to provide you shelter. Certainly, the patiently persevering and steadfast will be given their reward beyond measure. So as we see, there is a lot of reward for emigrating and striving hard in the cause of Allah. Allah gives a great reward, one of the highest rewards for doing so. We know that like in Afghanistan, there is a lot of people wanting to leave the country that supported the old government, who were allies with the occupiers, and maybe it's best for those people to go if they want to go. There should be no restriction for those people to go, as long as wherever they're going, as long as all the paperwork and all that with these Western countries are fulfilled and stuff like that, that they have a legal place to travel to. But most importantly is to make Afghanistan attractive to believers around the world, to make it attractive by implementing God's laws and commandments on the earth. That's what's going to attract believers, and it doesn't matter how many are going to emigrate, it's how many are going to migrate to your country. So very important to implement the divine laws and commandments of the Most High God, unique creator of all that exists. As I mentioned, this book should be roughly ready in about 2 to 3 weeks. I got about 2 weeks, I think, maybe 3 of editing left, and this will be available free. I'll give the details in some later videos, inshallah, about how you can download it, or I'll email it to you. By giving me an email, I'll just email you the PDF of the book. I plan to have possible books in hard copy books of this in the future, inshallah, maybe a year or so. I'm looking to have a website too to teach from the Quran from this book later on as well, and the ebook will be available free for everyone. There might be a small charge for the hard copy books, just to cover costs, and I'm sure I'll give a lot out for free, inshallah, as well. So you know, bottom line is Allah, as we see in nature, you know, the birds, the animals, they don't need insurance, they don't need something injected to them to travel from one place to the other. Here in North America, Canadian geese travel south in the winter, thousands of miles, and they return in the summertime, travel thousands upon miles. They don't need any insurance or any sticker or anything in their arm to travel. So, you know, it is Allah's commandments for us to traverse the world, to explore the world, for our spiritual material advancement, to advance civilization. These are all important things to make our travels more easy. Is also a commandment of Allah. Immigration is an important thing. You know, in the time of Imam Mahdi, obviously, it's going to be very attractive for the believers to emigrate to the Muslim lands, because Sharia is going to be properly implemented. So the rights are the proper rights will be given to the people, and that's what I hope Afghanistan will do. Inshallah, the Taliban will implement Allah's Sharia in a balanced way, not go into extremes, and make it very attractive for believers to emigrate to Afghanistan and rebuild Afghanistan with believers. It will be much more powerful, much more abundant and spiritual and all sorts of ways, by bringing true believers in, and it will only strengthen the country, you know, all different ways, financially, spiritually, culturally, and will help lay the groundwork for the coming of Imam Mahdi, as well as the coming of Jesus. Peace and blessings be upon him. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you take Allah as your shield, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be with you. Take care. Peace.